And at the beginning of everything, we are introduced to abyss, a deep abyss that manifests itself when the mana present in the air reaches a critical level. And when this happens, abyss opens a portal to void, the world of demons, which houses demons with the most different levels of strength, and the deeper the portal, the stronger the demons present in it will be. In this, Noel informs that his city manifested an abyss with a depth of 12, which was already serious enough to summon Lord-level beasts. And when he realizes the gravity of the situation, Noel's grandfather decides to pick up his grandson and leave the house immediately. Then, they go to an underground shelter, and Noel's grandfather asks him not to leave there for anything, and as for him, his grandfather will buy time until help from the capital arrives. But upon hearing this, Noel reminds him that there is no way of knowing when help will arrive, so he asks his grandfather to give up this madness of trying to fight the demons alone. However, his grandfather tells Noel to stop underestimating him. After all, he is known as the feared Overdeath, the indomitable demon. Having said that, he leaves the shelter to go to the conflict against the demons. And during the fight, Overdeath reaffirms his life motto, saying that a man cannot let himself be underestimated, even if it may cost him his life. And after the whole battle calms down, Noel goes outside to look for his grandfather, when suddenly, he finds him lying on the ground with blood on his face. At that, Overdeath tells his grandson that his time has finally come, because from the moment a man chooses to walk the path of fighting, he will constantly be walking alongside death. Having said that, he asks if Noel still wants to become a seeker, even knowing the danger he will face. And Noel says yes, at which point Overdeath asks him to promise him that he will become the best seeker, to the point of never being defeated by anyone. And then, Noel makes this promise to his grandfather, saying that he will become the supreme seeker. And upon hearing this, Overdeath extends his hand towards Noel, and says that he will love him forever. But as soon as he says this, his hand falls again against the ground, and thus, Overdeath's life finally comes to an end. In this, Noel informs that his grandfather's real name was actually Brandon Stolen, a seeker who defeated a beast from the abyssal depths 13, called the Silver Cocytus. And since then, Stolen became known as Overdeath, the most powerful of all seekers. And 2 years after his death, Noel finally becomes a seeker, as he had promised to his grandfather. However, he held the support class Eloquent, which in this case, is considered the worst support class of all. And when explaining a little more about the creatures of the abyss, Noel comments on the inferior vampires, and because they are an inferior subspecies, they are not capable of using magical abilities. However, the queen of their species is capable of reproducing on her own, and emitting beings similar to inferior vampires in an unlimited way. And although the enemies are weak, Noel asks his group not to let their guard down. After all, these creatures are capable of tearing apart even a bull with their bare hands. Furthermore, Tanya explains that these beings can only be killed after having their heads cut off. With that said, they continue on their way through the abyss, and then, one of the group members suggests that they ignore all these generic vampires that the queen generates, and go into a direct confrontation with the queen herself. After all, that way they will destroy the source that generates the enemies, and consequently will end them. But upon hearing this, Noel states that this would be impossible, as normally a mission like this would be tough for C-rank people like them. So Noel says that they must continue eliminating the vampires that appear in front of them until they find the queen naturally. At this, the team member withdraws the plan he had suggested, as Noel always has the final say in all battle strategies. And noticing this ironic tone in Walter's speech, Tanya asks him to stop. However, Walter humiliates Noel again, saying that they are only on that B-rank mission when they are in C, thanks to Noel's skill and gift of the gab. Therefore, he thanks the Eloquent class, and upon hearing this, Noel explains that this is a specialized support class, and if they invoke words with buff effects, they can increase the group's combat strength a little more. However, the combat ability of the entire group continues to be the worst of all. And moving on, they are attacked by another beast, which throws poisonous gas in the group's direction. At this, everyone tries to attack the demon, but notices that their attacks become ineffective without the support of Noel's eloquent ability. And then, Walter starts yelling at him, asking the boy to lead the group, otherwise he will never be considered a true eloquent. And when he feels underestimated by him, Noel remembers what his grandfather told him, and tells Walter to never underestimate him. With that said, he stands in front of everyone and activates his eloquence technique, increasing the abilities of all members by 25%. And in the middle of the fight, he notices some more beasts hidden in the ceiling, and Tanya explains that if they manage to join the main body, it will make things even more difficult. And seeing her in that state of shock, Noel uses his mental clarity on Tanya to make her feel like fighting again. Having done that, he goes back to giving orders to the whole group, and then takes takes out his magic weapon, Silver Flame, and starts shooting at some of the beasts. And when the time set by Noel ends, the queen is finally killed, and thus, the enemy in front of Noel stops at the exact moment that their leader dies. At this, Walter calls Noel an idiot, for having done something reckless that could have cost him his life. And when he remembers when he received the eloquent support class, Noel remembers him crying and being helped by his grandfather, because at that time he already knew how bad that class was. However, Stolen tries to reassure his grandson, and says that he will train him so that he becomes the best seeker of all, regardless of the class he has taken. And returning to the present, Noel feels more confident, because he believes that his grandfather's training was in fact effective. In this, he states that he will become the best seeker of all, to the point of surpassing even Overdeath himself. As he continues on, Noel arrives at Atri, the imperial capital of the Velnant Empire, which has gained prosperity thanks to magi engineering. However, the lands of Velnant are more susceptible to the abyss than any other place. And as the Velnant Empire took the lead in magi engineering, the research and use of materials collected from demons became the Empire's most important economic activity. As a result, the Seekers, who hunt demons and purify the lands they disturb, naturally came to be revered by the people. And after turning 15 and being qualified as a Seeker, Noel decided to move to Atri in search of companions. After all, as he is of the eloquent support class, he cannot fight without any companions by his side. In this, he introduces Walter, the group's warrior, and then Tanya, their healer. And finally, Noel introduces Lloyd, the swordsman and leader of the group. And when introducing the entire group, Noel explains that he is there only to observe them and gain experience over time, as this is an important step that will help him fulfill his ambitions. And when he notices Noel looking very thoughtful, Walter asks what's going on. After all, he thought everyone was there to celebrate and not think about anything too serious. At this, Noel pretends that there's nothing wrong. However, Walter insists on helping him and says that the boy can talk to him if something's going on. At this, he deduces that Noel is upset because they didn't get another 500,000 for the service they provided. And then, he suggests that the boy not take the money so seriously. After all, for him, Seekers should aim for even bigger things than that. And to close his reasoning, Walter tries to appeal to Noel's emotions, saying that his grandfather would also tell him exactly that. But when remembering Stolen, Noel realizes that his grandfather also cared a lot about money. After all, a true seeker must go to the battlefield with the best equipment that only money can buy. And with that, Noel ends that conversation there, saying that he is not angry about anything. As for Walter, he continues to look for trouble, and says that Noel's greed will end up affecting Blue Beyond's reputation, so he asks the boy to rethink his way of thinking. In this, Noel responds to Walter's rudeness in kind, resorting to irony. And when he feels insulted by a boy 2 years younger than him, Walter asserts himself, using his age as an excuse to ask for more respect. However, Noel reminds him that age makes no difference at all. After all, skill is all that matters to a seeker, so Noel says that Walter cannot use his age to try to be better than others. And upon hearing this, Walter says that Noel only hides behind the group and keeps giving orders, taking his body away from the real danger of the battle. And as they continue with the insults and ironies, the two are interrupted by Lloyd, who asks them to stop embarrassing him in public. After that, they leave the establishment and share the earnings with the whole group, but when she sees that only 250,000 are left for each, Tanya becomes sad, as she expected to earn more with her efforts. At this, Lloyd reassures her, and reminds her that they are constantly increasing the group's assets, so in a next big mission they will be able to earn even more. But upon hearing this, Noel corrects him, and says that these types of jobs that pay a lot are rare, because unlike the clans that receive tasks from the government itself, they act as outsourced workers, and therefore end up receiving much less. With that said, Noel asks how the group's assets are doing, and Lloyd informs him that they currently have 12.8 million fil. Upon hearing this amount, Noel suggests that they use this money to found their own clan. However, Lloyd reminds him that the government charges 20 million fil to register a new clan. To this, Noel says that he is willing to cover the rest of the money with his own funds. However, upon hearing this, Lloyd says that they will still need a building in Atri to serve as the clan's base, so they will still have to bear the costs of that rent anyway. At this, Noel interrupts him and says that he already knows of a place that charges cheap rent. However, Tanya puts more obstacles in their way, saying that they are of a low rank, and therefore are not ready to manage a clan. And upon hearing this, Noel reminds everyone that they need experience to manage a clan, and that they will only gain that by having one. And furthermore, he states that he has already studied a lot about clans and has all the knowledge they need to deal with it. And then, Lloyd says that they may not end up getting as many job offers because they are too young. However, Noel reminds him that the government encourages more people to become seekers, and since they are young and beautiful, this can inspire many people, and consequently they will gain more credit with the government. And after hearing Noel's entire explanation, Walter accepts immediately, and finally, they ask Lloyd's opinion on the matter, and he ends up accepting as well. They then agree to meet at Lloyd's house to discuss the matter more calmly and without the effects of alcohol. But before they can meet to resolve the issue, Walter runs to Noel and informs him that they have been betrayed by Tanya and Lloyd. My friend, the protagonist is just a Better Call Saul, who also just got kicked out of 12 million. I want to see how this is going to turn out. I like the ambitious protagonist, at least he's smart, he doesn't have any power, but I want to see how he sees dealing with things from now on. Leave a like and subscribe and I'll definitely be back with more videos for you here on the channel. I'm gone.